With the Stranger Things finale finally released and the truth about 11 left deliberately open, the Duffer Brothers made a bold and emotional choice. Instead of giving us a clear answer, they placed the fate of one of television's most iconic characters directly in our hands. Did 11 truly sacrifice herself to save her friends and end the nightmare forever? Or did she survive, finding peace somewhere far away just as Mike's final story suggested? Now that the series has officially concluded, it's time to break down both possibilities, examine the clues hidden within the finale, and decide which outcome feels the most likely. So let's get into it, because this is the question fans will be debating for years to come. Did 11 actually die in Stranger Things? When looking at the darker interpretation of the ending, the theory that 11's death was real carries significant emotional and narrative weight. 11's entire life had been defined by being hunted, tested, manipulated, and used as a weapon. From the moment she escaped the lab as a child, she never truly had peace. Even when she found safety with Hopper and her friends, the threat of scientists, soldiers, and government forces never fully disappeared. Carly's words earlier in the season linger heavily over the finale, especially when she suggested that the only way to truly protect everyone might be for 11 to sacrifice herself. That idea stayed with 11, particularly as the group prepared to return to the right side up after defeating Vecna and the Mind Flayer. The fact that Dr. K was waiting when they returned only reinforced the idea that the cycle would never end. Even if one villain was defeated, another would always rise in their place. There would always be someone trying to recreate interdimensional travel, someone attempting to weaponize children with powers, someone willing to repeat the same horrific experiments. By sacrificing herself, 11 wouldn't just be saving her friends in that moment. She would be ending the project forever. No more experiments, no more pregnant women being tested on, no more children growing up as numbers instead of people. Another strong argument for her death being real lies in Carly's condition. Carly was already critically wounded long before 11 entered the abyss. The idea that she survived long enough to create a complex illusion, help 11 escape, and then disappear without a trace feels unlikely. The injuries she sustained appeared fatal, making it difficult to believe she could have played such a crucial role after the fact. This casts serious doubt on the illusion theory. Emotionally, it also feels out of character for 11 to fake her death. She loved Hopper, Mike, and the rest of the group more than anything in the world. They were the first people who gave her a sense of belonging, a sense of family. To knowingly let them believe she was dead while she lived somewhere else in peace feels cruel, and 11 was never cruel. The goodbye she shared with Mike didn't feel like a temporary farewell. It felt final. The emotion, the weight, and the acceptance in her expression suggested that she knew exactly what she was doing and what it would cost her.
The way the scene was constructed further supports this interpretation. The echoing scream as the Upside Down collapsed wasn't hopeful. It was haunting. It carried the sound of something ending, not something continuing. If it had been an illusion or a trick, that scream wouldn't have carried the same emotional gravity. Everything about the moment felt deliberate, tragic, and permanent. From a storytelling perspective, 11 sacrificing herself to save the world and free future generations from suffering also feels like the most complete conclusion to her arc. She was created as a weapon, but she chose to die as a protector. However, there is another interpretation, one that offers hope instead of tragedy. The theory that 11 survived hinges largely on Mike's final story. At the end of the episode, Mike tells the group a tale about a mage who found a way to survive her final battle. In this version of events, Carly has a change of heart after hearing Hopper speak about how much 11 has suffered and how deeply she deserves a life of happiness. Together, Carly and 11 supposedly devise a plan to trick everyone into believing that 11 died. For this theory to work, Carly would have needed to survive and use her illusion casting abilities. The idea is that 11 escaped while a projection of her remained behind in the Upside Down. With 11 believed dead, the military would abandon the project entirely, since her blood was the final link needed to recreate the experiments. Free from being hunted, 11 could then disappear to a place far away, somewhere peaceful, somewhere with the waterfalls she always dreamed of, finally living life on her own terms. There are a few subtle details that give this theory some credibility. When 11 is using her powers during her final conversation with Mike, her nose doesn't bleed the way it usually does. This could suggest that it wasn't really her exerting power, but rather a projection. Additionally, her number tattoo is missing in that vision, which could symbolize her freedom from being a number, from being owned, from being defined by the lab. It could represent a rebirth into a new identity. Still, this theory relies heavily on interpretation rather than concrete evidence. Mike has always been the storyteller of the group, and the scene strongly suggests that this was simply a story he told himself and the others as a way to cope with loss. When he sits with Hopper on the bench, he struggles with guilt, wondering if he could have stopped 11. Hopper reminds him that there are two paths forward, blame or acceptance. Mike chooses acceptance, and the story becomes a way for him to imagine a version of reality where 11 gets the peace she deserved.
The final moment where Mike cries as he places the book back on the shelf feels symbolic. It suggests the end of stories, the end of hope, and the acceptance of reality. If 11 truly survived, this moment wouldn't carry the same weight. It feels like closure, not continuation. Ultimately, the Duffer Brothers chose not to confirm either outcome, leaving 11's fate intentionally ambiguous. While some fans appreciate the freedom to decide for themselves, others see it as a missed opportunity to provide a definitive ending to a character we've grown with for over a decade. Looking at the evidence, the tone of the finale, and the emotional framing of 11's final moments, the idea that she truly sacrificed herself feels more consistent with the story being told. As heartbreaking as it is, 11 dying brings the cycle to an end. No more running, no more hiding, no more being hunted for her blood. She saved her friends, protected future generations, and finally took control of her own destiny. And maybe that, in its own tragic way, is the peace she earned. So, did 11 survive, or did she die? The answer may never be officially revealed. The Duffer Brothers have reportedly told Millie Bobby Brown the truth, meaning only 3 people know for certain. Maybe one day we'll find out. Until then, the story remains open, living on in debate, theory, and heartbreak. So, there you have it. Did 11 actually die in Stranger Things? If you want more videos breaking down Stranger Things theories, endings, and hidden details, make sure to check out the playlist and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. What do you believe really happened to 11? Let me know your thoughts.